Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to gather a cadre of writers, thinkers, and teachers who are transforming the world, one character at a time. And it all starts with one thing: a deep understanding of human motivation, why people do what they do, and the forces that drive them. To gain that understanding, I am mining the intersection of psychology, theology, and philosophy to make you a better writer. This is episode 118, a tour of my Zettelkasten. Okay, I've received numerous questions about my Zettelkasten, which is usually visible in the background, and people want to know what is in my Zettelkasten. And in particular, today I also received a question where a viewer wanted to know, do I really use the number, letter, numbering system? So I wanted to show you my Zettelkasten. I'm going to kind of show it to you a drawer at a time and give you a little bit of the history of my numbering system. My numbering system has evolved over time, and it's changed over time, and several different numbering systems live happily together in these boxes. And that's part of why I say it doesn't really matter what numbering system you use. The important thing is that you have a numbering system. And when we get to the index, I'll have a few more remarks to make about that. So I began with that empty spot right over there, the top left, and we're going to come across, and then we're going to jump around a little bit in the bottom row. Okay, my first card section, I'll pull up the whole section, is 1A1. So yes, I do use the number, letter, number. And however, it took me quite a while to arrive at the effortless numbering system. Even though if you look at my cards, it looks like it's just using the effortless numbering system. Well, I have to make a confession here, because for the, goodness, how long was it? More than a year of having my Zettelkasten, I was afraid of the numbering system. And so what I did was I used a method that I called clumps and dividers. And under the system, clumps and dividers, what I just showed you there, 1A1, would have qualified as a clump. And as a clump, every card in the clump began with 1A1. That was it. They all shared the same number. And my philosophy with that was, well, every member of a household shares the same address. You don't have different addresses for each child, and the mother and the father too. So I figured, okay, keep the clumps small enough and they can all share the same address. And then the ordering was simply that I was careful to arrange them in the order that I wanted them. So that way I felt that the card ordering could be flexible, whereas that you could always find it, because you could always find that you would index for the whole clump. So every card that got indexed would just have its clump number. Well, that kind of worked. The challenge came when they started getting too fat. When you have too many cards and you find you're just dealing with a whole wad of cards and trying to reorganize them and look for the one you want, then it was time to break them down. And so that's when I would begin to make a smaller divisions. And when I made smaller divisions, then the challenge came in that I had all of these cards, and now maybe the big group, maybe it was now 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick, would now break up into like maybe 3 smaller clumps. Well, the problem there was that every card that had been indexed, you had to go back to the index and extend the card number. Because now, if you left it alone and you said, okay, it's in 1A, well, now, wait a minute. 1A is now, let me get this out. This is 1A. That would not have been very successful to say, oh, yeah, no problem, it's in 1A. That's why it broke into 1A1, and then eventually 1A2 got split into 1A2A, 1A2B, 1A2C, 1A2D. But every time they split up, I had to take every card and go visit the index for it. And because in my indexing, I believe very strongly in the concept of having a full phrase in the index and not just one word, that was a lot of reindexing. So that mechanism, even though it endured for over a year, literally over a year, and by that point in time, I had it with this constant reindexing. So I sat down and I watched every one of the Scott Shepper videos on card numbering. All of them. I spent a whole weekend just binge watching them all. And I already watched them all because I watched everyone as they came out from the get-go. When I first found Scott Shepper, he had 6 videos. So I had already seen them all, but I went back through and studied them carefully. Well, then I had to take each of these clumps and start giving each card in the clump a number. And that was a big job. So my mechanism there was that whenever I added a new card to a clump, I gave each card in the clump a number, did the indexing update for once and for all, and then I was done with that section. And then I indicated that I had finished a section by putting a little dot at the end of it. And then that was, okay, this one's done. Well, every once in a while, I encounter a section in my Zettelkasten, very seldom nowadays, but every once in a while I'll counter a clump that still has not been given each card a number. So even though these cards and the next 3 boxes I show you all look for all the world like they were the effortless numbering system, I didn't yet have the effortless numbering system. That arose kind of a play as you go, and it took a long, long time before I could name it and state some rules for using it from the get-go. So this box starts with card, literally card, well, it would have been 1A, but it's 1A, 1A-1 is the first card in this box, and it runs through the end of 1G. So that's this drawer. Okay. The next drawer is the same kind of a system. This begins with the 1H, and it runs through 2, how far does it go? 2, all of 2. So 1H through all of 2. And here you'll also notice something that's pretty darn important if you're working with a Zettelkasten. It's an out card. It's just cut out of a regular card, a bright colored one. And that lets me know when I've got a card pulled so that I can effortlessly put it back again when I'm done with it. So it's the second drawer of these. This drawer begins with 3A1, and it runs, these are all my 3s up through here, and then really 4, 5, 6 hadn't really been used, although I'm using 4 now to Zettelkasten, writing with emotion, and then to do the syntopical reading into the fours so that we can have a common card base to start with. And because I'm working with that section tightly, I've got them in a little tray by themselves. So these are the fours right now. And what you'll see with this drawer is it's not full. These are the junk mail little clump guides I've shown you on a couple of occasions. Very, very handy, because as the drawer gradually grows, you just set aside a little packet of cards and you have a little more room. Then, I'm just going to go with this one next, even though it's not next in being part of my main cards. This box is my index and my author box. So from here to here, this is all my alphabetical index. And as I've showed you more than once, let's find a simple one. I put full phrases and not just keywords. I think that's very, very valuable because I can get so much just in rereading that one phrase. It will often bring the whole card back to me. This group back here, it's also alphabetical. And this is my author box. And it's also my people box. So I have, I have family members' addresses in here. And I also have all my author references in here. If I have an author that I'm going with, I will always include the author card, and the author card includes references to whatever books I've read by that particular author. And again, this box has a fair amount of empty space. Look at all these junk mail dividers I've got in this box. This box is about maybe 3/4 full. But that's not all of my Zettelkasten. There's more to show you. Next up, this section from here to here. Whoops, let me show you again. Some more alphabetical dividers. Well, not quite, because if you look at these guys a little bit more closely, these guys have written in by hand R dot in front of the letters of the alphabet. These are my bib cards. So this whole section, these are all of the bib cards of the books that I've read that fed into all of those cards. And starting here is my bib cards, the beginning of my bib cards that use a 4 number prefix. So these will start out with 1,000, and this particular group runs from 1,000 through 4,500. From 1,000 to 4,500. These are the ones that start with a 4-digit prefix. As I say, I happily have different systems in my box, and I've got one more box to show you of those. But even though they are separate in my Zettelkasten because they use different numbering systems, one and only one index ever. If I've developed 5 numbering systems and I want to keep my numbering systems in separate drawers, no problem. One and only one index, or you'll go nuts. And this drawer here is all of the rest, and it's packed full, all of the rest of my cards that begin with a 4-digit numbering system. So if you look at where I'm at, I've got three drawers full of the letter number, and a drawer and a quarter of the 4-digit numbers. This one is getting pretty tight packed to the point where I'm going to be saying, oh, now what? Because if this grows to very much more, I don't have much space in this one to pull anything more over into this box. I'll be looking for a home for things. But right now, my section that's growing rapidly is in the 4th, and I actually have some space in that box. So I'm not too worried right now. All right, so now we've covered the whole top row and 2 drawers in the bottom row. What are the other 2 drawers? Well, this drawer, I consider this whole drawer spare space because it holds supplies, unopened packages of cards, various colors of cards, spare dividers if I find I need another alphabetical system, and these little guys that I use when I have to break up my index. It gets too fat. I think my letter T is getting to that point where I want to spread it out into 5 smaller chunks. I'll use these. So this really gives me grow room. I've got a whole drawer here of grow room. And the next drawer, this is what Scott calls a chaos box. It's cards that were created before I had a Zettelkasten, and or that are pre-printed and are not really part of my Zettelkasten. So I'd be hard-pressed to know where to store these if I didn't have this drawer. But as my Zettelkasten grows, this drawer will give up the ghost and give up its space. So how long did it take me to collect these cards? I started my Zettelkasten in the tail end of January in 2022. So we're looking here at growth from about a little over 2 years of growth to get to this size. So I hope you enjoyed the tour of my Zettelkasten. And yes, I do use the effortless numbering system, but even though my boxes would say, oh yeah, she's used it from the beginning, here's the truth. These cards were really created with the effortless numbering system, not those. Even though they look for all the world like they were, the end result is the same. And the crazy thing about all of this is that the numbering system itself doesn't matter. As long as every card has a number, as long as you've got a plan, just get over it, because as we already saw, even with this little bitty numbering system, we started out with a category 4, writing with emotion, and guess what? Charles Darwin and the theory of evolution popped in. Things will come into your Zettelkasten where they will. And if it grows up, it will grow up right there. And so you can start out with categories, but by golly, they're not going to last for very long. So I hope you enjoyed the tour of my Zettelkasten, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.